changes.
President Biden pushing Congress to impose tougher penalties on executives.
Good idea either. And I'm here to try to make some sense of this taxation without representation thing that we have going on this 18th day of March. This is live radio right here. My engineer this morning, Tom. Good morning, Tom. Pleasure to be here with you. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching me. Those of you that pick me up later on the podcast, and those of you that pick this up later on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this and for the comments. I've gotten a lot of comments this week from people. Thank you very much for all of you that tune in and follow up and call me and ask me questions. And those of you that come in to have me do your tax returns, thank you, thank you, thank you. Those of you that have come on board to be financial clients, financial investment clients, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I do this program once a week to try to keep, it's a subject I really enjoy, and to just try to keep people informed about what's going on. And wherever it may go for the next hour, I don't know. I do kind of do an outline of the direction I like to go in, but that can easily be derailed, Tom, as you know, as you've been here. I want to thank everybody again. I thanked everybody last week, and I want to thank them one more time. I was voted Best of Rutherford County Financial Planner. Tom, I don't know if you knew that, but I was voted Best of Rutherford County Financial Planner, and I want to thank everybody that voted for me. And I always tell people, the other guys are at a little bit of a disadvantage because I do have a fairly large tax practice, and it was a lot of my tax clients, a lot of my financial planning clients, a lot of my investment clients, and just, business consulting, all the different things we do. But I thank all of you that took the time to vote for me. And really, every tax decision is a financial decision. Every financial decision is a tax decision. The two just go hand in hand. The day of tax season being January to April are over. It is all year long now. We literally do financial planning and tax consulting all year long. It's amazing, and I predicted it years ago when I first got on, started doing this program. I would say that. I would say you're going to see the end of the seasonal tax preparer, the person who just, they do whatever else they do. They got a landscape business, or they're a contractor. Really, I've met these people. They're contractors, or they're firefighters, or they're whatever. Not that any of those professions are bad. I'm just saying. And then this was kind of like a winter thing. They would do this in the winter because it's kind of slow, especially landscapers, January, February. I said, it's going to be where you're going to need to be a professional that does this year-round, because the laws are going to be changing that fast. And people looked at me like, oh, no, it's maybe down, years from now. No. And it's happened very, very quickly. We're literally, seeing forms change during tax season, and protocols with the IRS change, and the way they're doing things change that fast. So this is what we do. We do tax returns and financial planning. So if you need to make that was two sentences in one. I have two offices. One at 704 Oak Street in Forest City. The other one is at 226 South Trade Street, the beautiful Art Deco building right off the historic downtown, Tryon downtown. One telephone number gets you appointments at both offices. That's 828-289-9300. And we are accepting new clients. We are doing tax returns right now. This is actually considered peak right now, the peak season. And so deadlines. Let me get into the deadlines. This year, the last day to file your Form 1040, that is 90% of the tax returns get filed, your Form 1040, and your 1120, you corporations out there, you have till April 18th this year, April 18th, because the 15th falls on a Saturday, which, by the way, Tom, that is going to be our last program for the season. We'll take a break after that. So I know you were wondering how long. Yes, Tom is shouting right now. You can put the confetti away, Tom. The 15th is going to be the last program we do, but the 15th is a Saturday, and Monday, so by law it pushes it back to the next business day, which is Monday the 17th. But Monday the 17th is Emancipation Day in Washington, D.C. The federal government is closed that day, so they're going to have a nice long weekend. So that's going to push it to April 18th. Tuesday, the 18th, is the last day to e-file. It is also the first estimated tax payment that you're going to make for 2023. The first estimated tax payment is also due April 18th. And that goes for the states, because they all just follow suit with the federal government. They've all extended till April 18th. So that's the next big deadline that we got coming up for your 1040, your 1120, and for your estimated tax payment. Now, not-for-profits, and again, this is all, you calendar year filers that your, end of the year was December 31st. Some people are on different schedules, and those kind of people know the schedules they're on. But the not-for-profits, we used to say nonprofit, but a lot of businesses are nonprofit. The not-for-profit, because that's the official designation. Those of you that are not-for-profit, those of you that file Form 990, those are due May 15th. So get those ready to be filed, the Form 990. And the thing that makes the Form 990 very unique and very different is if you fail to file your Form 990 for 3 years in a row, you can actually lose your not-for-profit status. So you 990 filers, please be aware of that, because I'll have some charities come, and what happens is most charities are, you have either very, very big charities, I always think, your American Red Cross, your Salvation Army, just your big charities, and then you have your little local 501c3s. There's not a lot in the middle. It seems they're either really big or they're really small. So I'll have little ones say, well, we kind of got behind a little bit on our filing. Then I'll say, well, how behind are you? Well, 4 years, 5 years. And it's an information return. They don't owe money with it unless you've had taxable events, and most of them don't. An example of a taxable event is if somebody were to pass away and leave the charity some dividend or some interest income that might be taxable. So it was somehow connected to an IRA or a trust or something like that. They might have some taxable income, even though they are a not-for-profit. They still could have some taxable income, but that's very rare. Only your big charities usually have that kind of stuff. They have endowments and things like that. But most of them it's an information return, and you file it. It lets the IRS know, yes, we're still doing this, and it lets donors know you're still doing it, because it is public information. You can go to irs.gov. Tom, that is the official website of the IRS, irs.gov. I had somebody yesterday that tried to make a payment, and their payment wasn't going through. And I said, where are you trying to make this payment? Oh, irs.org. I'm like, you just gave all your information to some scam site. You better call your bank right now and lock that thing down. He said nothing had happened, but yeah, no, irs.gov. So you can go to irs.gov. There's a little link there for charities. You click on there, and you can actually search for a charity. So let's say, Tom, you're approached by a charity for, I don't know, what charity do you like? Save the Spruce Somebody comes up to you. They want you to donate money. Big one. Want you to donate money to save the spruce trees. Okay? And you're like, well, is this for real? Because he's out there in a 69 Corvette and he's revving the engine while he's asking you for money. Red flag. Okay? Red flag. So is this charity for real? You can actually go to irs.gov, plug in their name, and you can ask them for your EIN. You can ask them for their EIN number. And if they don't have one, that's another red flag. Okay? If they have a name and an EIN number, you don't even really need the EIN number. You can just plug in their name and do a search by name. You can do a search by name and town. You can do a search by address. EIN number is the best, though, because it really cuts right through it and pulls them up. You won't have to search through all the other Save the Spruce Tree charities that are out there. So you can pull them up, and you can actually look at the tax returns they filed, and if they're current, if they're not current. So it's actually a really good tool to use. So, but you 990 filers, if you don't file your tax returns for 3 years in a row, you could potentially lose that 501c3 status. And that could be serious for you, and it will show up on the website that you do not have that status anymore. Okay? So that's that deadline, 590. So let me move on to, I've already talked about that. I've already talked about that. I've already talked about that. Everything's okay, Tom? Tom, the engineer, he's feverishly engineering.
Yeah, the missiles are ready.
The missiles are ready. We're on the air. People can hear me.
Yeah.
They're not calling, complaining.
No, not yet.
I haven't said anything yet.
No, they'll show up.
They will show up. They call me later. So speaking of people calling and calling me later, last week I talked about when I was a child, and I used to ask people how old they were. Mr. Tremelli told me, I am so old, my Social Security number is 9. I had more comments on that this week than I think anything else I have ever talked about. Yeah, Mr. Tremelli, you say that all the time. And I remember, and I went home and I told my mom, Mr. Tremelli is so old, his Social Security number is 9. She just looked at me like, this poor child. What am I going to do with him? But so thank you so much for, if they caught nothing else last week, they caught that. They got that. They got that. And that's something because young people, and when I say young people, I'm talking about anybody under 40, your Social Security number is not what it was when we were growing up. Our Social Security number was everything. It was your number at the doctor's office, your patient number. It was my library card number. It was my school ID number. It was everything was your Social Security number. And you didn't get a Social Security number till you needed one. Today, you're born, you get a birth certificate and a Social Security number right there at the hospital. Back then, it wasn't like that. I didn't get mine till I was I can't remember, 8 or 9 or 10. The school needed it because it was my school number. And then it became my library number, and then it became, and in Illinois, your Social Security number and your date of birth was on your driver's license, right next to each other. Talk about a security breach. There's your name, your address, your Social Security number, and your date of birth, all on one little handy laminated card for everybody to know. But there wasn't this, what could you do with it? You couldn't go and open up credit cards. You couldn't go online. There was no online. I know it's hard to believe. There was no online. The only online we had was that line between the two cans that you pulled real tight to talk into. Okay, anybody over 60 will know what I'm talking about there. But that was it. But thank you so much for the people that called about those comments. Now, last Saturday, and I'm not going to go on a 40-minute conversation about this like I did last Saturday. Last Saturday, I talked about Silicon Valley Bank. And I said, the people in the leadership there were serial liars. Our government is serial liars. The media is serial liars. Because they were all saying on Friday night, this is an isolated incident that isn't going to happen again. Don't worry about it. This is just this bank. They did whatever. They were blaming it on everything. They blamed it on everything but incompetence. Just call it what it is. It was incompetent. And it's not going to happen. So I leave church Sunday night, and I go home, and I pull up my little calendar to get ready for Monday morning, as I do on the night before. And what comes across? What bank closed? Signature Bank was in real time being raided by regulators while I'm sitting at home in my pajamas watching it. In real time. So much for it not happening again. It didn't take 48 hours. It didn't take 48 hours for it to happen again. And they said, oh, no, this is isolated. Oh, no. Well, that one is an isolated incident. So we keep having these isolated incidents. And there's 8 more, 9 more in trouble now. And what's the common thread through them all? It goes back to what I talked about in November, FTX and cryptocurrency. They were all heavily invested in cryptocurrency. And what did they say back then? And I told everybody here on the radio, I said, they're liars. It's not true. Don't believe it. What did they say? Oh, this isn't going to affect anything. This is an isolated incident down in the Bahamas. Yes, a few investors are going to lose a few billion, but hey, they're just investors. Who were those investors? Banks that lost a few billion. And we're finding out it's not just a few billion. What was it Dirksen said? A billion here and a billion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a break. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9.
Jesse James Railroad Express has moved to a new location, 126 Park Lane Plaza in Rutherfordton, and they've changed their name, Jesse James Chowhound Canteen. A new name, a new place, and a limited menu. Currently, you can get smoked sausages, kielbasa's, and of course those delicious hot dogs. And you can get coleslaw, macaroni and cheese, and potato salad. Stay tuned for their new menu at their new place. Hours are Tuesday through Saturdays from 11 until 2, closed Sundays and Mondays. Jesse James Chowhound Canteen, 126 Park Lane Plaza in Rutherfordton. Call 286-9368 and get a 99-cent hot dog with mustard, chili, and onions, Tuesdays only.
Hi, this is Christy. Gilbert and I are excited to announce our new name and location. Carmona Financial Consultants at 704 Oak Street in Forest City. Let us help you with your taxes. Let us help you with your investments. Carmona Financial Consultants at 704 Oak Street in Forest City. Stop by or give us a call at 828-289-9300.
We are back. That is the International Morse Code Signal, the call for help. We are talking about banks here during the break. I don't even know why we take commercial breaks. We should just keep talking. That's some of the best conversations we have during the break. So we're talking about the subject. Oh, the program is Gilbert Talks Taxes. Yeah, let me get that out of the way. Those of you that need to call me to make an appointment, to have me do your tax return, because we do tax returns. That is the point of this program, is to tell everybody that I do tax returns. I do all kinds of tax returns. My telephone number is 828-289-9300. That's 828-289-9300. Those of you live streaming, good morning. I am here with my geodesic tie. Look at that, in the blue room. I'm kind of blue this morning. Looks good, though. Looks great here in the blue room. Those of you live streaming, thank you so much for tuning in. So we're talking about the banks. I really don't want to go off the subject on the banks. It just, the thing that is frustrating to me is, folks, I'm not a genius. I'm really not. Some people think I'm really smart. They say, you really know a lot about taxes. Well, yeah, I know a lot about taxes because I enjoy what I do. I'm an enrolled agent. My license is from the IRS. To pass the test to be an enrolled agent, you have to take 3 tests that's on just nothing but obscure tax law. It's like, and you just have to know tax law, and and I know it, and I like it, I enjoy what I do. But if I'm just, some little guy here in a solo practice, and I see these things, why are these politicians who claim to be smart not see it? Why do I say that? Because not one of them has been proactive. You don't see one of them doing anything proactive. Not one of them is coming out saying, hey, we got a problem here. This is getting ready to happen. We need to look at this. No, everything's after the fact. Everything. Joe Biden got up there. They fumbled up on stage. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. He literally, when he left the stage, he was fumbling trying to find the doorknob. He had a press conference, and he talked about how quick, decisive action his administration took. No, his administration took no quick, decisive action. They just pushed it off on somebody else. They blamed Trump. It's Trump's fault, by the way, in case you didn't know. They blamed Trump. They blamed the fact that the banks invested in T-bills with low interest rates. And why did they do that? Because the federal government gave them teaser rates to do it, and they've kept interest rates artificially low. The list goes on and on, but they blamed everybody else. Nobody stood up there and said, we're asleep at the wheel, please forgive us, which is the truth. That is the truth. We're asleep at the wheel. We're engaged in other things that have nothing to do with running this government, and we're just running, screaming about stuff and telling the rest of the world how to live when our own house is a mess. And that is the truth. And that's the bottom line. So it's just frustrating to me because I see it, and I know those of you that come to my office and we talk. I mean, all week we've had some great conversations about this. You see it. You normal people that, you go to Walmart, you see it. You go to Aldi, you see it. You go to Food Lion, you see it. You go do all the things you do, and you see it. You feel it. You know what's going on. Tom just told me people he knows are banking in these banks that are on this watch list of banks that maybe. So this is real. This isn't like something happening. Silicon Valley Bank isn't out in California somewhere. I said it last week, there are people in this county who did not get their payroll checks on Friday because of what happened. This was last week, what happened in Silicon Valley Bank. There are people that did not get their payroll checks on, that happened on Sunday night, but there were people affected by the money at Signature Bank in New York. And then Silvergate. And everybody goes, well, it's a crypto bank. Most of their stuff is in cryptocurrency. No, it's a bank. People had money there. Whether it's crypto or it's, fiat currency or whatever you want to call it, it's a bank. And people had their money there. Okay? And the bottom line is people are affected by this. And that's just the part that's so frustrating. And then they say everything's a conspiracy theory. Well, when we don't get the truth, when a bunch of serial liars get on television and lie, and we don't get the truth, what's left? Conspiracy theory. I mean, that's all we got left. And all the conspiracy theories are turning out to be pretty true. So, nothing is far-fetched anymore. Somebody told me something that, and you go, you couldn't have made this story up. And this is right here in the county. It affects a bunch of people. So 2 of them are clients of mine. So they go to real estate closing. And I'm not going to name names. Just know this is real. This really is happening right now. They have their real estate closings at an attorney's office. And one of the people that works at the attorney's office, instead of sending the money, wiring the money to the bank, so you buy a house, and the bank gives the attorney the money. One bank, the buyer's bank, wires the money to the attorney. The attorney takes that money, and he gives some of it to the seller if the seller gets any money. Takes the rest of it and takes what's left, pays commissions to the real estate agents, brokers, whoever's involved, pays off whatever other liens there may be on that property, and sends. Well, the first one to get paid is the mortgage, right? I should have said that one first. He takes that money and he sends it to the mortgage company. Then whatever's left over, he pays off any liens. Then whatever's left over, he gives the real estate brokers their money. Then whatever's left over, the seller gets. Okay? He's the last one to get paid. So that's what an attorney is supposed to do. That is why you go to an attorney, right? So this attorney had an employee who thought that he didn't need to send the bank that money. Yeah, somehow he felt that was his money. And he took it. Yeah, he took the money. And he didn't do this once. He didn't do it twice. He did it, from what I understand, 8 times. And there may be more. This is just what I know from the 2 people that I know that are clients of mine that are involved in this mess. And it is a mess. It is a mess. It's a mess and a half. I don't know. I can't remember what program I said it, but I talked about, there's a book written about the housing shortage of 2008. And the book is called The Big Short. And I know they made a movie about it. It was very popular. They tried to explain in everyday terms what happened. In the book, he tried to explain, he tried to really make it simple for the average person to understand what happened. Because, these financial people talk in, they use all these big words and they use all these acronyms, and they do it deliberately because they don't want you bothering them. So they talk to you in another language so you'll go away. That's really what they do. So this guy really tried to break it down, and so that the average person knows what happened. And especially if you lost your house in 2008. Why did you lose your house? Try to explain it to you. And why? Greed, corruption, and what? Fraud. And in the book, the one main character, which this is true, he actually made a speech, and he said, we live in an era of fraud. There's fraud everywhere. It's in religion, it's in sports, it's in education, it's in government, it's everywhere. It's in the media. We live in an era of fraud. And I don't want to get down about it, but it gets frustrating after a while. It just gets frustrating because you almost look for a semi-decent, normal person to help us, make it. And they wonder why a guy like Trump is so popular, why a guy like DeSantis is so popular, why people want. And DeSantis and Trump are like not just really popular, they're like over the top popular. I think the gap between those two and any other Republican is like 90 points, like 90%. Like Pence is 0.0005%, I think. I mean, there's like nobody in the middle. Why? Because the two of them tell it the way it is. The two of them tell you the truth. At least you feel like it's the truth. So anyway, yeah. So you can't trust them. You can't trust what they say. But I want to give people hope. To give people hope, we're going to just do the best we can and just live our life with integrity. And that's really all that matters. So another bank closed. Let me just leave it at that. And are any more going to close? Yes. What's going to happen? I don't know. FDIC said this is not going to affect taxpayers because they're paying it out of their insurance pool, which they've got a big insurance pool. They are swimming in cash. So, not anymore. They're going to be giving that away. So let's see what happens there with that, and it's not going to come back to the taxpayers. So because if you lose money there, it's not a tax deductible event. You can't. It's not like the people that lost money with Madoff and things like that were going back and amending some of these tax returns because they claimed gains they never made. They never really made. We're going back, and so the taxpayer. That was okay. Let me explain that one. The Madoff was the guy that had the Ponzi scheme involving stocks, and he told everybody they were making all this money when they really weren't. So they report. I mean, he gave them fake tax documents. I'll tell you what, he did a good job. I mean, it was untraceable. He did a really good job. It was untraceable for a long time. I mean, he was totally committed to his scam for decades. And so he did that, and then people were filing tax returns with all these claims and all these gains, and they were paying taxes on these gains. Well, when it all turned out to be fraudulent, you could go back and amend these tax returns and get some of that money back. And there were people that got back hundreds of thousands of dollars. That came from the taxpayers. Of course, it was money they paid in. So, there's that. But that came from the taxpayers. Supposedly, this is not going to come from the taxpayers. Supposedly. At the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to talk about, after our break, I'm going to talk about claiming dependents on your tax return. There's a little bit of confusion about a dependent. When is a dependent, and at what point is a dependent emancipated and is off on their own? And there's some confusion there. I'm going to hit the high spots on that because there's a lot of moving parts to all that. But if you've got dependents or you've got a child that's like 18 and has a job, they still can be a dependent. Let me get into that, and then I'm going to talk about I've had a lot of questions about IRA rollovers, actually 401k rollovers, tax implications of that. I'm going to get into that. Let's go ahead and take a break. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9.
As we get ready for this year's tax season, there's one thought on everyone's mind. Will Gilbert's hair look fabulous this year? Oh, yes, it will. How can I say that? Because I go to Robin Saunders at RSL Salon. Whether it's a good haircut, a pedicure, or a manicure, you can count on RSL Salon. Call Robin at 828-289-9110 because everyone deserves to look fabulous.
Hi, I'm Sandra. My husband Peterson and I own Precision Detail and Tint. We invite you to come to our new location at 620 U.S. Highway 64, Rutherfordton, on the corner of Silvers Lake Road and Highway 64. Whether you need specialty detailing for your car, RV, or boat, or window tinting for your automobile, or home or business, we can help you. Voted Best of Rutherford County for 11 straight years, you will know you will get quality work at a good price. Stop by for an appointment or call 828-245-8889. We're open Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and Saturday 9 to 1.
Oh, we're back. That was a short one. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes. Oh, boy, warn me next time, Tom. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes right here, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. I am Gilbert Carmona. I am an enrolled agent. An enrolled agent is a person enrolled with the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. They give me my authority. What does that authority let me do? It lets me represent you in tax matters. Any issues you have, any letters you're getting. I also prepare tax returns. That is like what we do. And we are preparing tax returns right now, and we are accepting new clients for tax returns and for financial planning and for tax issue resolution. Pretty much anything else you need done. Pressure wash the garage, whatever. Give me a call, 828-289-9300. I have two offices, one at 704 Oak Street, Forest City. The other one is at 226 South Trade Street, the beautiful Art Deco building in Tryon, right off the historic downtown Tryon. Telephone number again, 828-289-9300. Those of you live streaming, good morning on this 18th day of March. And we got freeze warnings. We got freeze warnings today, tomorrow. You know what that means? That means I'm up at 1 in the morning covering the peonies. Oh, yeah. I had a thought. Why don't I cover them before I go to bed? Because they wouldn't be the same. You have to get up at midnight. I've got to get that. Are you up? I am now. You think the peonies will be okay? You think they'll be okay? Yeah, I got to get up. No, we have got freeze warnings tonight and tomorrow night.
Yeah. Going into spring, so
yeah.
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is going into spring. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the 14 inches of snow that so far we have avoided. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, I don't want to talk so much about the child tax credits because, well, I'll probably get into that here in a minute. But what I've seen happening in the last month and a half, for some reason I've had a big uptick in this happening, is people will come and they will say, because I go through, when you come in and I'm going through, especially if you're a repeat client, you come in and I'm going through the tax return, and I ask you, okay, do you still have the same 3 dependents? People say, no. My daughter Susie is now working, so she's going to do her own tax return. And I'm like, okay, well, Susie's 17. Now, so the child won't count for the child tax credit, but if the child still lives at home, you support the child's graduated. If the child's in high school, the child's a student. If the child's graduated high school but they're in college, they're a student. 18 to 24, they're a student. You can still claim them, and you still might get earned income tax credit for the child. But they can still be a dependent of yours. So they say to me, well, Susie's working. And I'm looking at the thing going, well, Susie's 17. How much money is Susie making? Well, Susie's working at whatever local fast food restaurant is. And is she working full time? No. Susie's working part time. And Susie's making maybe, whatever they're making an hour now a day is working part time. So Susie might make all of $8,000, $9,000. That does not mean you don't claim Susie anymore. You can still claim her. She is still a dependent. But there's this thinking that because she has a job, and sometimes I've seen the child make as little as, $4,000 or $5,000. And they say, oh, no, no, they're on their own now. Well, they still live at home? Yes. You're still paying the bills? Yes. Are they in school? Yes. No, they're not on their own, not for tax purposes. And then I say, well, have they done their tax return? And this is the thing. They'll go, oh, yeah, they did their tax return. They got $20 back. I'm like, really? Did they put on the tax return they were dependent of another? No, you just gave that exemption away. So I've seen it cost people money. So what do we have to do? Now we've got to go back and amend Susie's tax return and paper file yours, because yours will reject. So just because Susie has a job, or Timmy, okay, Susie has a job or Timmy has a job, doesn't mean they're no longer your dependent. And I had the one boy file his tax return to get his $20 refund. $20 refund cost Dad $1,400 to have him do his tax return. So we had to amend his, and we had to paper file the parents, and they're going to get the money. It's just, it slows things up. Paper filing can take 28 days to process, and another 2 or 3 weeks till you get the refund. So paper filing, we try to e-file whenever possible. Actually, we're mandated to e-file first, then it needs to reject, and it comes back. So we've had quite a few rejects. Actually, I had one parent that didn't even know how this whole thing worked, didn't even know the child had filed their tax return. And so just be aware, just because they have a job doesn't mean they're no longer your dependent. That seems to be this thinking. So, and how does that work? If the child made less than standard deduction and they had any withholding, I'm not talking about FICA, I'm not talking about Social Security and Medicare, I'm talking about withholding for the federal and withholding for the state. If they made less than standard deduction, which standard deduction, single person, it's doubled. It's over $12,000. They're pretty big. Standard deduction, if they made less than that, they're going to get that money back, all of it, whether they're dependent of another or not. Okay, they're going to get that back. So you want to say they're dependent of another, they're going to get that same refund amount back. Like Timmy would have gotten his $20, whether he was dependent of the parents or not. Okay, but what happens is now the parents can claim him, and the parents are going to get the earned income if they qualify for it. Of course, everything's if they qualify for it. If they qualify for the earned income tax credit. Now, the child's over, you only get child tax credit till they're 16. You're either 16 and so 16 and below. You're going to the year they turn 17, you lose it. So you're going to lose that child tax credit, which this year's $2,000. It actually got lowered. So the child's got to be under age of 17 at the end of the year. And then there's several tests for who qualifies for the child tax credit. But again, they have to have a Social Security number. ITINs don't count. ITINs are usually foreigners born in a foreign country that are U.S. residents that get a 900 number, an ITIN. Those don't count for child tax credit. So, and it's got to be your son, daughter. Now, stepchild counts. Eligible foster child counts. Brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, half-brother, half-sister, or a descendant of one of those, meaning a grandchild, a niece, or a nephew. Any of those qualify, and they have to be one of those. I've seen people put other, and it's like a girlfriend's child that the girlfriend didn't work. So, and I've seen people try to claim the girlfriend, and that's not, none of that qualifies for child tax credit. Okay, provide you provide no more than half of their own financial support during the year, and that's the thing that they'll say to me. Well, they're supporting themselves. I'm like, I don't know what world you're living in, but $8,000 ain't supporting anybody. I don't know have you been to Aldi lately? $8,000, you're not, no. Unless they're living in a Quonset hut somewhere, $8,000 is not supporting anybody, and it's getting even more. So, I mean, the poverty line's even gone up now. It's anyway, provide no more than half of their own financial support, have lived with you for more than half the year. Now, there is an exemption for that if they're in college. They're in college, they still are your dependent, and you still are supporting them. But let's say they go away to school, they're still your dependent. They may be living on campus, but they're still your dependent. And that qualifies, but have lived with you for more than half the year, and then be properly claimed as your dependent on your tax return, and not file a tax return with their spouse for the tax year, or file only to claim a refund or withheld for estimated tax payments. That's where some people do a non-income return, okay? And you've got to be a U.S. citizen, a U.S. national, or a U.S. resident alien. And that's what's involved in claiming that. But I've seen a lot of people leave a lot of money on the table because they think that as soon as they get a job, that's it. Now, some of them were hoping as soon as they get a job that would be it, but that's not the case these days, And child tax credit and the earned income tax credits, they're not, I don't believe that they're keeping up with the reality of what's going on. Earned income tax credit, the thresholds are still very low. I mean, wages are very high right now. It is, you phase out of these. Now, child tax credit, You only qualify for it if your income is below $200,000, $400,000 if filing a joint return. So the phase out on that is very high, but it's not a phase out that goes right to zero. It is an escalating phase out, so you just get a smaller return. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that because and it's been happening enough that it's been bothering me, and I don't know if it's just that there's such a labor shortage that a lot of these students that might not have gone out and gotten a job are going out and getting a job, because there's really where did I drive by? They're paying $13.90 an hour. Was it Taco Bell? I drove by a fast food restaurant. Well, somebody told me Chick-fil-A was paying, one of the Chick-fil-A's, I don't know if it's this one here in town, but somewhere they said they saw a sign, $15.90 an hour and a $500 sign-on bonus. $500 sign-on bonus. Jim, yeah, is Jim going to get your resignation Monday? Tom, is that what you're saying?
I gotta get it. He'll get it when he sees me at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, when he drives through,
Yeah.
and you're taking his order. Yeah. But I drove by one yesterday. It was $15.90. I'm sorry, $13.90 an hour. Somebody told me about Chick-fil-A was $15.90 an hour, and some other place was $11, $12. You know, these are for high school students with zero experience. This isn't, or it's paying $11, $12 an hour. Well, I told you the story about when I've got clients in California, and we were out there, and I actually met a waitress working at a pizzeria making over $100,000 a year. Yeah, a waitress at a pizzeria making over $100,000 a year and could not find a place to live. Making over, I guess when everybody's making over $100,000 a year, it just drives the price of everything else up. So is $13.90 the new minimum wage? What's happened? Everything else has just come up. You know, everything else is just up, because you see the prices of everything when you go there. Okay, so and then what happens? So that if they're in college, by the way, and they live with you and they are your child, you are entitled to the other credits too. So if they have the education credits, you're entitled to those. Okay, and that's a whole other topic. I could do a 1-hour program on those. But just know that whoever claims them is entitled to those too, whether it's the American Opportunity or the lifetime learning. Either way, you're entitled to that if you claim them as a dependent. Okay, we ready for the next break? Yeah, let's go ahead and take the next break. And I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about this, more confusion about 401, all these numbers, 401ks, rolling over, and when can you roll over, and what happens when you roll over. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
I want to tell you about another great local business, Forest City Concrete and Grading. Call Sean at 828-447-5949. Sean is a licensed general contractor. He can do your job from site development to completion. That's Forest City Concrete and Grading. Call Sean at 828-447-5949 and tell him Gilbert Talks Taxes sent you.
A good sign is good business. Make your business stand out with a professional sign from Dia Signs and Graphics. Successful companies all over the United States trust the team at Dia Signs and Graphics. With 25 years of professional experience, we have the ability to present your company's image in the best light. Not only display signs, but Dia Signs and Graphics can print banners of all sizes. If you need magnetic signs or window and vehicle graphics, call on Dia Signs and Graphics today. We offer a full line of sign products for any event. 3D, sandblasted, storefront, and monument signs are just a part of a complete selection of quality signage. Professional signs and banners to fit any budget. Let your business stand out. Call Dia Signs and Graphics today at 286-4900 or stop by the sign shop located on Main Street in downtown Spindale. And check our website for more suggestions at diasignsandgraphics.com.
And D&S Signs has moved. They're now at 1621 Porsford Road in Rutherford. That address again, 1621 Porsford Road.
This is Kimberly. If you owe the IRS for prior years or you have unfiled tax returns, don't call those national toll-free numbers. Affordable, secure, and local help is available for you. Call Gilbert at 828-289-9300. Gilbert is an enrolled agent permitted to practice before the IRS. Taxation is his specialty. He knows the latest laws to help you with your problem. Avoid garnishments, levies, and liens. All initial consultations are free. Call Gilbert at 828-289-9300.
This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. Yeah, we were just talking during the break about, the good old days. Tell me more, Grandpa Tom. The good old days, 20 back in my day, 25-cent hamburgers and 10-cent drinks and things like that. But yeah, I remember people making $1 an hour. I remember people making 75 cents an hour. I remember that. I remember waitresses making 50 cents an hour, and the only reason that they even paid anything was to cover the tax on their tips, so that they would have withholding. That was the only reason they did that. But I remember people making that much. I remember $1 an hour being like a big deal. I mean, I also remember, I remember when cars went over $10,000. That was like, what? You were rich, buddy. You dropped $10,000 on a car. Mr. Tremelli! Mr. Tremelli! Number 9, Social Security number 9. He had a Cadillac that was $10,000. Wow. He was rich. Mr. Tremelli was rich, $10,000 Cadillac. Yeah, but what were people making? Yeah, and it gets relative, and they don't understand. And now there are people now in jobs making 25, and I mean, that's being thrown around like it's nothing. I remember when $100,000 a year was, people strive to make that much. If you could make 6 digits, I want to make 6 digits. I've said it here on the radio, that's going to be the norm. Right now, you're having double income families with not fancy jobs, just plain old jobs, just working people that are making 70 and 80 a year. And that's just, and normal. And they're like, we can't make ends meet on that kind of money. So, to bring that up and connect it to taxes, I'm really sorry that the federal government's just not keeping up with this. These thresholds need to be adjusted and brought up. Alt-min, alternative minimum tax. When Trump did Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I was very happy. When he doubled standard deduction, I was thrilled. I thought that was really needed to happen. I was sorry they got rid of Form 2160, which let employees. So before Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and they doubled the standard deduction, if you were an employee and you had to drive from your house to an office or a warehouse or a building, get whatever you needed, and then drive, talking about driving your car, not a company car, your car, you drive to the office, and then from the office you go to jobs, and then you drive back home. Before that, you could deduct all that mileage if you were unreimbursed. So if it was on you, and that was part of the job. Some places, that's what they said. They said, look, I'll pay you this amount of money, but we're going to do it this way. You're going to pay your own cell phone. You're going to pay your own gas. You're going to pay your own whatever. And this is what I need you to do, and I'll pay you this amount of money. And employers did it because it was an easy way for them to do the bookkeeping. They didn't have to worry about reimbursing you and dealing with all the receipts and all the stuff that goes with that. And then you, on your tax return, filled out Form 2160, claimed that as a deduction, and we were good to go. Well, they got rid of that. That went away. But standard deduction got doubled, so it kind of made up for it. But I was really hoping that a lot of the other thresholds would go up, especially earned income tax credit. It's still, I think, way too low for people. And the other thing that just burned me up is the teachers' credit, deduction, education supplies credit. The teachers get to write off $250 a year for their teaching supplies. It has been $250 since I've been doing tax returns for like 25 years. It has been $250. I've had teachers tell me they spend over $1,000 of their own money unreimbursed. I've had them tell me. They all laugh at that because I asked them, I said, so, okay, you're a teacher. Did you spend your $250? Because it's supposed to be what you actually spent. It's up to $250. And you're supposed to have receipts for it. They all just look at me and laugh. Every one of them just looks at me and laugh. And they said, one teacher told, well, and especially the new ones that are just getting into education, because they're ramping up. I mean, they're like, they look at me and they go, $250? I spent like $2,000, and that's just the stuff they need for just their projects. So I was really sorry for that one. That really should be about $2,000. They should get that. And then the other thing is this FDIC limit of $250,000. That really needs to go up. Okay, let's talk about. I've got 9.5 minutes left. There have been some mergers and some acquisitions, and some companies have merged here. It's right here in the county. They've been bought out, so people are going to work and they're working for a different company. So their 401 plan, in some of these cases, are not portable, or they don't port over to the new plan. Let me say it that way. So Company A buys Company B. Company A and Company B each have their own 401k. So you would think Company A would just absorb Company B's 401k. That is not the case. As a matter of fact, most of the time that's not the case. Sometimes it can be, but you need to be aware of it. And what happens is a lot of times these companies are busy with other issues, and the 401k is like bottom on the list of things they're worried about. So some employees don't even find out that there's been a change or whatever till they got to do some paperwork or something, or it comes up. But just be aware, it's not always an automatic thing that it's going to go to this new one. Some plans, so plans are individually tailored things. There's not a set boilerplate plan. There is some laws and there are rules. There's a RISA and there's all these other rules and laws that you have to follow. But plans are highly customizable. That's a hard word for a Cuban to say. Customizable. They can customize these things, and they often are. Some plans don't allow outside assets. So I've been getting phone calls and people have been asking me, what can I do? What should I do? Well, I'm not giving advice here on the radio. I'm not telling you what to do. Let me just tell you what your options are. You can roll it over into your own IRA, which is an individual retirement account. So you can take that 401k money and you can roll it over if part of this merger and part of this acquisition allows it. So one that I was working on this week with several people, it's a company that's no longer in business. Another company bought them, and their new plan does not allow you to roll this money over into their plan. Now, the employees, as a new employee, you can contribute to their plan. You can join their plan, which they're all going to do that, which I advise that. If you come to me and you want me to handle your IRA and stuff, one of the things I always ask you is, do you have a 401k or a 403b or whatever? Do you have a deferred compensation plan, retirement plan at work? And if the answer is yes, then I say, tell me about it. Do they have a match? In other words, if you put $1 in, do they put $1 in? Yes or no? Yes, they do. What's the limit? Well, if I put 3% in, and again, they're all different. There is no set rule, because people will say, the standard. No, there is no standard. I've seen everything, literally everything. I've seen where if you put $1 in, they'll put 50 cents in. If you put $2 in, they'll put $1 in. If you put whatever. And they always talk about it in percentages. So most of the time, what you tend to see is like a 3-3 match or a 4-4 match, whatever. You see something like that. So if you put in 4%, they'll put in 4%. If you put in 3%, they'll put in 3%. Okay? Kind of like, I don't want to say it's a rule, but let me say it this way. It's something I like to see. I would tell you, maximize that first. If you're going to put any money away, you're going to save any money, you're going to do anything, do that first, because that's free money. If you put 3% away and they give you 3%, that's free 3% that you're getting. Okay? Tax deferred. Again, it's not tax free, it's tax deferred. You're not going to pay tax on it until you pull it out. And if you pull it out before the age of 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. But this is supposed to be retirement money. This is supposed to be down the road money. Okay? So Some plans, so there's a merger, there's an acquisition, the company you're working for is no longer the company. You're now with a new company has taken over. If they'll allow you to roll over the 401 or just port it, as they'll say, port it from one to the other, and you want to do that, fine. You don't have to do that. You can do that, but you don't have to. Can you take it? Sure. It's your money. Most plans at that point will allow you to take it out. Other plans, if you're still working for the company, you can't take it out. But now, technically, the company's not there. So in these cases here in the county, the ones I'm dealing with, you can take that money out. The question is, do you want to? 10% penalty, and you pay the tax on it. If you're under 59.5, 10% penalty, and you pay the tax on it. Or you can roll it over into your own IRA, and then you can have the whole conversation about should you go Roth or should you go traditional. The difference is traditional IRA is tax deferred. You will pay tax on that money when you start taking it out. The theory is you're going to take it out when you're in your late 60s, early 70s, when you're not working anymore and you're in the lowest tax bracket you're going to be in. Okay, that's the theory. You'll be over 59.5, so there's no penalty, and you'll start taking it out. At age 73, it's 73 now, 72, 73. They're eventually going to get it up to 75 because people are living longer. At age 73, you've got to start doing what is called an RMD, required minimum distribution. Okay, there's a chart. You're required to take a certain percentage of that money out every year. Why? Well, the government wants to start getting their tax money. At that point, they want to start getting their money. So you're going to do this. Now, this is the point I want to get to because this is where I've seen some people almost mess up. They're gonna roll it over into an IRA. Don't get a check and then go ahead and take the check to your bank or wherever, whoever's doing your IRA rollover. Because as soon as you get that check, you've really opened yourself up to something happening and the IRS thinking that was a taxable event. And a lot of times they'll withhold money on that money, and that portion of it will be taxable. So it gets very, very muddied. If you're going to roll this thing over, if you're going to put it into another plan, let whoever you're moving it to, let them do the paperwork. Please don't do this yourself. I've seen 2 people try to do it themselves, and it created a paperwork mess. It was just made it very, very complicated. Just so let the new people that are going to be getting the money, they're going to be handling your IRA or your Roth, traditional, doesn't matter. Let them handle that transfer. Because the one person called them and said, well, I want to roll it over. And they said, okay, well, we'll just give you a check. And he's like, great. So they gave him this check, and then he got a 1099-R for the distribution with the withholding, and at the end of the day, he had to pay some tax and some penalty. It wasn't a lot, but he had to pay it. And the point of this money is we don't want to pay tax on it, and we certainly don't want to pay a penalty on it. Okay? Now, if the plan allows it and you want to do it, fine, go ahead, do it. Or you'll get a new job, not even merger acquisition now. You quit the company you're with, you go to a new job, they've got a 401k. People just assume they'll be able to roll their existing into it. Some plans don't allow it. It's just flat out, don't allow it. You can't do it. So you need to do something. Don't let your money just sit at the old plan because you want to be able to manage it. You want to be able to at least, because now it becomes difficult, or it can become difficult. Let me say it that way. It can become difficult because now you're dealing with the old employer, you're dealing with the old employer's HR, and you've got to go through them to get information and things. It just gets muddied. So yes, you can do it. Yes, let the plan administrator of the new place handle the rollover, is where I'm going with all this, to avoid a tax implication. Okay? And we do that. If you want to give me a call, 828-289-9300. I can help you with that. If you have any questions on that, give me a call. Well, Tom, we're out of time. It goes by quick, and I'm literally just getting